Welcome to our next STEMWise session. Couple quick housekeeping notes. Keynotes are at 2 p.m. today in this room. Also, welcome reception at the expo from 5 to 6:30. The expo floor opens at 11, and that building is connected to this building, so if you just follow this hallway, you can get over to the expo hall. Please welcome our next presenter, Augusto Morales.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Augusto Morales. I'm a technology lead in Checkpoint Software Technologies. And today I'm going to talk about a very interesting topic. So before I proceed with my presentation, I want to let you know that I have just one purpose of this conversation, okay? To let you have this idea that gym equipment can be weaponized, can be compromised, okay? Also, I want to tell you that this is an ongoing research that we're doing. Actually, I'm one of the main researchers for this. But yeah, what is different from this research is that we are taking a much more holistic approach, okay? So in this specific case, we're talking about what kind of threats your gym equipment can be attracting, specifically Peloton machines, okay? Which I think that is something very popular. We love Pelotons, everybody. So this is the agenda for today, okay? We're gonna talk about gym equipment. Why is this important for all of us? The security, of course. Secondly, I'm gonna do a high-level overview of some of the security threats and findings that we identified in our research. And of course, it's always important to go over some mitigation strategies. So let's get started. Peloton, okay? And again, this presentation, this research was fully focused on Peloton, because Pelotons, they are all over the place. We love them. They have treadmills, they have Peloton guides, they have bikes, and so on and so forth. But more important is that it is quite popular, as you can see. I mean, tennis players, they love Pelotons. You got Ashton Kutcher using a Peloton too, okay? We have Alicia Keys, celebrities, Miley Cyrus as well, using a Peloton. And this is important to keep personal private data protected. But also think about this, because these are quite popular machines. We have high-level, high-profile people using these kind of machines, okay? As you can see on the screen, the House of Representatives, they give free staff membership to, free Peloton membership to all of, I mean, the participants, the people that have that, that are part of that organization. But also, it is important to notice that even in the White House, they have a Peloton device, and it is well known that it poses a threat, okay? It's well known that Peloton machines, those are devices that come with internet connectivity, that come with CPU power processing, that can be misused, and of course, being taken advantage for in case of some nation-state actors. And there are some other interesting facts, like now they have bikes, treadmills, Peloton guides. Most of them, they use the same operating system, okay? So I think that these security findings are applicable for many of those devices. The equipment stores, they are not cheap, but they are not too expensive. There are 6.7 million active members, which means that the attack surface is very wide. Okay, most of the people using these Pelotons, as you can see, are high-profile people. Okay, which means that there's lots of data. Okay, interesting data. And now, what is also important that wasn't available in the past is that you can buy a refurbished equipment or rent a new one. Actually, if you want to go to a hotel, to book a hotel with a Peloton treadmill, that's something that is possible. But because, I mean, this is kind of loyalty that we have, that people, I mean, I include myself, that we have developed across the years. But more importantly, my wife and my kids, they love Peloton, as you can see on the screen. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because this whole study came from curiosity. Okay, curiosity by myself to really install Netflix on that Peloton because, I mean, a couple of months ago, I say, okay, I love this machine, I like working out, but I want to watch Netflix. But it wasn't possible back in those days. But the important fact here is that that was my motive for that, and my opportunity for do this research. But if you think, what can malicious actors, cyber criminals, state-sponsored actors could do with the right means, motives, and opportunities? Okay, there's a lot of things. They could weaponize a machine. And actually, oh, I like this video. You see my kid running. It's awesome. Well, they shouldn't do that, but I wanted to highlight that we all enjoy this. Okay, so let's get to the point, okay? Some security threat and findings. So now, what I did, and actually, of course, this is like disclaimer, and I have to tell you as well that, again, that this is an ongoing research that we're doing. We communicated all these findings to the Peloton, okay? And they were awesome. They provided the following statement that you can see right there. Of course, there's a couple of QR codes in case you want to get more information. I'm going to be very high level in the technicism because I don't want to overwhelm. But one of the key points that they made was the fact that most of the attacks that I demonstrated require physical access. That could change. I mean, we're working on that. But anyways, that's what we got. And the first one, well, I already mentioned this. Peloton threats are computers with belts. And in our study, we wanted to follow a different methodology, okay? We wanted to resemble what we normally do with mobile security, with mobile devices when you do some assets on mobile security devices. So we analyzed the operating system, okay? How the operating system looks like, the APIs, the internals, the binaries, and so on and so forth. We also took into consideration the applications, because at the end of the day, if you have a Peloton, actually I forgot to ask this. Do you guys have a Peloton? Please raise your hand. The person, okay, so I see one person with a Peloton. Okay, that's good. So, well, anyways, with a Peloton, you have different applications, okay? You have one application that controls the web, the UI. You have another application that controls the calibration of the machine, and so on and so forth. So we wanted to analyze those applications as well to check the security on them. And the third point was malware. So we wanted to answer this question. Would it be possible to install a malware on those treadmills? And of course, the dangers are real, as you can see. In the last presentation, we saw the presenter highlight the importance of sensitive data, okay? And of course, we share sensitive data with our Peloton. I mean, we share our heart rate, our birthday, name, addresses, and so on and so forth. What about lateral movement, okay? This is a very important topic as well. So in the last presentation as well, that was awesome. Actually, my wife, she's a teacher, so I'm going to tell her, hey, you should better look at this. What is important here? What other danger may come is lateral movement. If you compromise a Peloton, and let's imagine that that Peloton shares the same Wi-Fi with a mobile device that holds sensitive data, that could be a problem. What if that Peloton sits in a network in a corporate office? That could be one of the vectors of attacks that could be used. And of course, ransomware, DDoS attacks, we have seen that plenty of times. IoT devices being used to trigger DDoS attacks, and of course, to trigger ransomware attacks, exploiting some vulnerabilities. Actually, we have seen many IoT devices being actively redirecting traffic through them to enable command and control centers. And of course, the last danger is fraud, okay? You get access to the data, okay? You got sensitive data, so you can commit fraud. But let's start with the first one, okay? The first vector of attack, the operating system. During this analysis, the version of Peloton that we found was version 10, okay, which is not old. But if you think about it, between 2022 and 2023, there's over 1,000 plus vulnerabilities that could be exploited in theory. That's a very high amount. Okay, some of them are critical, some of them did not require any user interaction. So what I'm saying here is that those vulnerabilities can be exploited, and actually there's plenty of POCs exploits out there that you can download from GitHub and adjust to the Peloton and trigger an attack. So the second, let's say, security finding was that turning the USB debugging mode was available in the Peloton. So for those who are not familiar with USB debugging, that's kind of a God mode, okay? That's when you enable the USB. That's when you allow your computer, your cell phone, and in this case, the Peloton, to be connected to that computer, to any computer, so that computer can trigger commands. Commands such as installing applications, removing applications, executing a shell, executing commands like curls that. And the meaning of this is that it increases the attack surface because you have access to shell. Basically, you are the god, okay? So the second finding was, I already talked about this, that the shell is fully accessible. But also, and actually you can look at some images of the shell itself of a Peloton when you connect through a USB cable. The second topic is that there's no restrictions on the binaries. So it is well known in the security community that there's living off the land attacks. So as cyber criminals, they were not using any different application. We just rely on ping, on ICMP, on curl, on existing applications in the Peloton. They don't have to develop from scratch. So that's an easy way to exfiltrate data and to make that Peloton device a bot machine. So that's something that we found that is available. Actually, you can see on the screen how you are able to list all the applications and of course to fetch those applications from those devices to do some reverse engineering, which is the purpose, okay, was one of the purpose of this study. Now, another vulnerability that we found was they are using different versions. There's different versions of the SDK in the Peloton, and that doesn't mean that that's wrong, but I would say that more complexity that creates human error. Okay, when you're a developer, and I'm gonna put my developer hat. I used to be a developer a couple of years ago. When you have to support different versions, different SDKs, you are prone to error because I mean you have to keep up with the bugs, with compatibility issues. So I mean. As a security professional, as a developer, it's difficult to catch up with the best practices sometimes. So this is something that we found that could be exploited as well. Now, we just talked about some characteristic of the operating system. Okay, let's talk now about the applications. Some Peloton applications, as you can see on the right side, they do not. They do a basic routing detection, okay? So again, for those who are not familiar with the routing term, it means that you're breaking the security of the Android device and you are getting super SU permissions. So you can do whatever you want. You can read memory, you can override applications. You basically are able to bypass the sandbox. And we found that the routing detection was kind of naive, okay, was very basic. And this is an area improvement for them. And actually, if you root a Peloton machine, what you can do is to manipulate the way application works, okay? And I mean, we're still working on this, but we think that it's going to be achievable. With the no-moting means an opportunity, you can modify the way the application, the workflow works. So you can present some screens, phishing screens to the user, and you can force the user to introduce some data that it's important for you, okay? And of course, you can see on the right screen some CVSE score that we got from Peloton itself. So in a nutshell, routing per se, the ability to detect routing is not a vulnerability, but we think that it could be strength. Another finding is hard-coded sensitive data. You know that this is a big problem as well. When you hard-code sensitive data, like keys, like tokens, like username, like passwords, that can be used in replay attacks. I mean, it means that you can pretty much play with the APIs in the backend and get access to some parts that you're not entitled to. Okay, and as you can see on the screen, we found in some applications some. Of course, we grayed out the key because we didn't want to share that. We found that there were sensitive keys, okay, stored, which, I mean, you can map with WASP and so on and so forth. So now, in Android, you have services, you have applications. You can basically have different ways to run, to develop an application, okay? So some of those applications are not protected. It's like, you know, I'm trying to compare on the fly with Windows. It's like having a service that could be modified on the fly, a system service that can be modified on the fly by other applications. So that's something that we found, okay? There are some unprotected services that could be abused. And actually, we succeed with that. That's part of another update that I want to bring later on. But anyways, what is important here is that there are some applications, okay? For example, the calibration application of the Peloton. If you compromise that application, you can change the way the belt speed is calibrated, so probably you can speed that up, okay? You can modify that on the fly and just make the treadmill go to 50 miles per hour. Well, 12 miles per hour, that's the max out. And, you know, probably cause a heart attack in somebody. So probably I'm exaggerating, but that could be possible. That's one of the dangers that could physically affect somebody. And of course, another item that we found was some inconsistencies in the signature scheme. So in Android, and I mean, this is general, okay? Whenever you develop an application, you sign that application. And in all Android version, there was a vulnerability with the whole application wasn't signed properly. So what we tried was to exploit those vulnerabilities and try to add data, extra data, to those applications to try to manipulate the behavior. And we failed, I have to tell you. They had good security measures on that. But that doesn't mean that probably a malicious actor with much more resources than us, than me, could do it. And of course, another item that we also try, I mean, we try to discover some security vulnerabilities was the API. We checked APIs in the backend, and they were completely good. So kudos for the development team. But now, we talk about the first vector of attack, okay? We talk about the operating system, okay? What's the operating system main characteristic? We talk about the applications. And the third vector of attack was malware. So to answer that question straight, yes, we were able to install a mobile remote access tool in a Peloton, okay? We got access to pretty much everything. And I have to tell you that doing that, my wife, she almost killed me because I had to call the support to put it back again to reset the machine. But anyways, it ended up fully working. Okay, so we got access to pretty much every single API of Android. Okay, so we got access to the camera, and actually, what you see on the right side, it's a photo taken with the Peloton. You know, the camera that it has embedded. We could use the microphone. We could still, you know, open the microphone whenever the user was not, you know, aware of. We could get access to location. We could get access to the network stack, and pretty much compromise everything that was available for us. So other features of this malware that we developed, we wanted to make this MRAT very powerful in the sense of making it a weapon. So of course, this MRAT included Nmap. So I mean, who knows what Nmap is? Okay, so Nmap, I see one person. So Nmap is basically a tool set, one of the main tool set that pen testers use and hackers do, of course, to compromise and to discover information, to do information gathering from targets. So our Peloton was empowered with that capability. And also we made Python available for the Peloton. And the reason why we wanted to do so is because there's so many public exploits out there written in Python. So we thought, okay, this is a Peloton, it's compromised, I can control it remote. What if I can dynamically load some components, okay? So I can adjust some payloads and attack other machines surrounding. So that was the goal, to completely weaponize the Peloton. And that's what we did. And of course, because of the nature of this IoT gym equipment, it was very difficult to do. So we implemented a couple of other things like DGA algorithm, communicating with the CNC server using ICMP. Well, long story short, advanced mechanisms that malware use to exfiltrate data. Okay, so it is not only an HTTP and HTTPS query. It's something that we did on purpose to prove that some awareness was needed on these IoT devices as well. So yeah, so that's about the findings. Now let's talk about some mitigation strategies, okay? And there's plenty of good data in the last presentation, and it all comes to this golden triangle: people, process, and technology, okay? Whenever you build a security and you implement a security architecture, you have to take into consideration all these three. They play together. And specifically with people, our idea was to share that it is important to understand the risk of IoT gym equipment as well, and the possible consequences as well. So think about this. When we install this malware in the first phase, we have to use the USB debugging capability. But let me tell you something. What if I go to the Amazon and I buy a Peloton cap, a jacket, or something like that, and I knock the door as somebody that is important, somebody from the House of the Representative, for example, and I show up and I say, hey, I'm from Peloton. I'm here to upgrade your Peloton machine because it's broken. It can cause a damage to your, to your body, etc. It will take only 5 minutes, okay? So that's completely possible. I can get in and just, connect to the Peloton and then install the malware. That's a complete possibility as well. So we have to be aware of that, of those kind of attacks. Now, secondly, processes. It sounds crazy, but we need a continuous validation of the IoT gym operational security model as well. How you're going to manage those devices, how you monitor those devices, how you make a profiling of the traffic created by those equipments as well. That's very difficult, and I think that the vendors, we're struggling with that. It's very difficult because traffic resembles what you see with Linux, with Windows, so it's something that has to be taken into consideration. In the same way of sensitive data flows. You don't know what's going on at the end of the day. You just see a couple of HTTP, ICMP queries to the internet, and the whole world is about CTNA nowadays. But how would you apply a CTNA concept? How would you implement a CTNA architecture? Well, implement that into a set of gym equipment or Peloton machines. That's a question. That's a process that we have to develop. And the last one, which is my favorite one because that's what I do normally, it's BYOD. You know what BYOD stands for? Bring your own disaster. And we have those gym equipment machines communicating with my watch, with my phones, so you don't know at the end of the day if there's a possibility for that machine to compromise, from that IoT device to compromise an IoT, a personal mobile device. So now, from the technology side, it might be a nightmare as well. So let me ask you something. How would you inspect traffic from a IoT gym? So most of these devices, they use certificate pinning. So it's very difficult to break the SSL tunnel without breaking the functionality. So this is a challenge that we have nowadays. The second one is anti-bot technologies. So how would you get intelligence from IoT, specific IoT, let's say Peloton, CNC servers? So that's something that we have to be aware of. The second point is SDK. This is a technology that could be applied on these devices, like software development kits, and there's plenty of them. So the idea is to, and I'm probably oversimplifying, installing an anti-malware in a Peloton device. It sounds, very strong, but at the end of the day, you must have some kind of local security controls to make sure that there is no malicious applications. And the third one is about the access, the bill of material. We all saw that that case happened a couple of years ago with a big vendor compromise, okay? So we have to understand that those small security pieces in the Peloton, those many SDKs are protected, and we get visibility on all the components up to date. Yeah, that's it. To summarize, gym equipment, Peloton devices, they can be weaponized. Okay, so as you can see today, we were trying with a specific brand. Tomorrow, what can happen? Secondly, it is not crazy. It is needed to apply rigorous security controls on these devices as well. This is the main tenet. And the third one that I like a lot, this is a quote that I love: don't try to hide stuff. Just follow proven security practices, by Sean Harris. And this is something that you can apply in pretty much every single security aspect. Well, that's it from my end. Is there any question, curiosity? Yes?
Since you were able to find that you could exploit like Peloton devices and stuff, did you do any outreach to them, like saying that there are ways that it can be exploited, and were they receptive to it at all?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Could you please repeat? There's a lot of echo.
Did you reach out to Peloton, like knowing that there are exploitable ways to get to their like treadmill and stuff? Have you reached out to them to let them know, and were they receptive to anything, if so?
Yes, there was a disclaimer. We communicated all these findings to them. Yeah, so it was done. We are in active communication with them because, again, this is an ongoing research, and the goal would be to remotely exploit it without any user interaction. That's the golden, objective of every single cyber criminal or, security investigator. Yes, sir. There's another question right there.
Tonal or
If you don't mind, there's an online audience.
are you planning to do other equipment, research other equipment like Tonal or?
Right now, we're focusing on this one, but that's a very good question. I've myself seen many devices. I would assume that the outcome would be similar. But yeah, that's part of the strategy that we have internally to address security in many weird devices. I have a personal project about how you can compromise an air fryer. There's a lot of air fryers out there that could be compromised. That's not crazy. I mean, what if I turn it on 1,000 of them at the same time? They consume lots of electricity, so you can cause a DDoS. It is not crazy. And most of them, they have no security. So yeah, who would expect that an air fryer could be compromised? So yeah, there's a lot of potential in researching IoT. So yeah, to answer the question, yes.
Hi, did you look at the remote update mechanism for Peloton? Do they use Google Update, or do they do their own updates?
They use their own updates. That's something that we wanted to break, but I mean, they implemented certificate pinning pretty well. But I think that if we manage to root the Peloton, we can instrument with the application and bypass that detection, because that was one of the findings, very basic. So to answer your question, no, they don't use Google Play, they use other mechanisms. But that's another vector of attack, to compromise the way it is updated.
Hello.
Yes.
I feel like I've heard many stories about IoT devices being hacked in various ways over the years. Seems like it's been like at least a decade since we've started hearing about this, from like Philips smart light bulbs to now Pelotons. And we're increasingly putting more and more computers in things. As you said, you're like hacking your air fryers and all this is happening. What do you think is a good step for us as an industry to help better promote these better safety practices? Like, do you have any like advice or like guidelines that we can start to do as an industry to help protect people? Because it seems like we're just making more attack vectors rather than less. So do you have any like advice to how we could maybe make this better for us moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that accountability. Okay, accountability on the software development. If you release an air fryer or a smart bulb, you must upgrade that firmware. You must challenge the ways that hackers can hack on your devices. That would be my first advice. The second one is about visibility. Without visibility, there's no control. But I get that, you know, for all mortals, having a firewall or an IoT discovery device in our house, that's crazy. But I don't know, probably in a couple of years, that's something that one of our providers can offer, ISPs. But yeah, those would be my two advice, accountability and visibility.
So the last question kind of answers this a little bit for me, but it should be really both the software providers and individuals, right? So how do we educate the world essentially? Because everybody's so excited. I have a smart television or a smart oven and a smart refrigerator, you know, like, so, but I mean, I'm very much in this space. So many people aren't. People don't care. They give credit card numbers over email. They don't know. How do we educate them?
Well, that's a tricky question. I mean, it's not tricky. It's interesting, but for me, it's difficult to answer. My idea is that in the user manuals, in the app itself, the vendors should. Because, I mean, you have a smart oven. So, of course, you have an application for that. I have a smart oven, too. So they should highlight the best practices or at least embed the best practices into their products. We should have like a baseline policy to let people kind of trust. And, of course, on top of that, have some automatic mechanisms to update. So my advice is always, if you don't need Wi-Fi, if you don't need smart capabilities, then don't use it. Then there's no need to expand the attack surface of something that has a single purpose. Okay, so that's something that we need to read more, of course, as users. And I mean, there's some initiatives, some law initiatives that could be in place as well. And that might be why not a lot of people raise their hand about if they have a Peloton. Yeah, and think about this, and this is my message. This was done by kind of a hobby. I mean, imagine what a malicious actor, a state-sponsored actor can do on these machines. They can do whatever they want with all the resources, with all the knowledge. And of course, as a company, I mean, I'm putting the hat of the company, we do have protections. We develop some protections to block some of these attacks. But yeah, it's challenging. There's a question right there.
Hi, thank you. So for all these attacks, a physical access to these devices is required?
For this specific version of the attack that I'm showing, yes. Our goal is to develop a network attack that doesn't require any user interaction. Like with what's going on with Pegasus, you just need to get a message and that's it. You trigger a buffer overflow in the app, in the Peloton app application, and then you take control of that. That's the purpose. Okay, that's what we are working for. But yeah, I think that that's truly possible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Augusto.
Thank you, guys.